Hello, hello. Welcome to On My Head, Son. Hope you're all well. Sorry, there was a bit of an issue with YouTube there. Wouldn't let me go live. But anyway, I'm here. I'm live. It's going to be talking about the weekend boxing, or last night's boxing, I suppose. The fights and the football. Going to be talking about a little bit about everything, really. So, hey, listen, if you're going to join us today or let us know your thoughts, come and join the live chat if you like. Let us know what's been going on, what you've been doing this weekend, and all that kind of good stuff. What sports you've been watching, what sports you're looking forward to, and obviously the fights and so on and so forth, and any other news. So I'm going to be touching on quite a few other things that's been going on this week, I suppose, and anything else that pops up as well. So come and join the chat, leave your comments, and always, if you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share, subscribe to the channel, and just do what you do. And all I ask is just keep on watching and tell your friends. Because, it's all about sports here, sports reaction, any news, and sort of thoughts of what's gone on. But really, I suppose I'm going to kick off with the fight of the night for me last night, albeit very short-lived, is Jonny Fisher's fight against Babic. I timed it at 25 seconds. He knocked him down, plus the count. That was 35, 36 seconds. That was it. He was waved off. Babic, no more, no more, the ref said. What do you think of it? What do you think of that? What do you think of his where he is as a fighter? What level he's at, where can he go, who can he fight next, all that kind of stuff. So let us know, say in the comments later if you're watching this back later or anything. So that was a really good performance, I think. Going into it, there was a lot of talk. This is what makes me laugh so much about some fighters. There's a lot of talk beforehand because they're trying to sell the fight, and also they're trying to sell themselves and also hype themselves up. I get it. But Jonny Fisher seemed to be really calm about it, very respectful, but just really calm about the whole thing. Whereas Babic, no, he was just launching right into it. And he obviously thought he was going to do a lot better than he actually did, and he actually thought that obviously Jonny Fisher wasn't up to much. Eddie Hearn thinks Babic is going to go very, very far. In fact, he thinks that he'll go in with against either Clark or Wardley right now and just beat them for the British title. Wardley, obviously, because he's the title holder for the British title. I just wonder whether Jonny Fisher would go English first and then British. Eddie Hearn and Jonny Fisher and his coach and manager and father, they're all saying they need a couple more fights, maybe a bit more experience as well. I think they were definitely planning for a 10-rounder. They were planning for a hard fight, but it just didn't happen. And Jonny Fisher seemed to be kind of going in with big clubbing right hands. He's flicking out the jab. He was working the jab. He was stood up straight. I don't know if has he lost a bit of weight as well. He seems to have lost a bit of weight. He seemed to be leaner. Still a big guy, of course, but he seemed to be leaner than I've seen him before. I mean, maybe that's just my eyes. Let us know your thoughts there. But I mean, he towered over Babic. Babic didn't get a look in, really, and he had the chicken legs, the jelly legs. Yeah, when he tried to get back up, and he was like, "No, why? I want to carry on," type thing. No, and then he had a little wry smile. I think he was completely out of it, completely outpowered. I just don't think he was prepared in any way, shape, or form to meet I think he was surprised, probably really surprised at the strength of Jonny Fisher. I'll tell you what I will say about Jonny Fisher is this: of the fighters that I've seen recently coming up through the ranks, he's the one that grabs my attention quite a lot. And it's not necessarily for his fighting style, because I still believe he's very raw, he's very rough around the edges, and he even kind of brings it, says it himself, he's got a long way to go. They're learning all the time, and that's what you should be doing as any kind of individual, as a human being, right? You're always supposed to be evolving, but as a fighter, as a sportsman, as a fighter, you're always supposed to be learning, you're always supposed to be evolving, and he's doing that. Right, and he's changing the way he's doing things, and he's taking inspiration, as he said in his press conference last night, from the likes of Anthony Joshua, who, straight after the fight, he's back in training, and his whole mindset is changing now, and it shows. It definitely shows, and his trainer is really pleased with him, with his sort of development as well. But he's only 11 fights in, right? He's 11-0, right? 11 fights in, but a really good performance, I would say. Really good performance from Jonny Fisher. But 35 seconds, it's. I think somebody in the press asked him, when you'd like to go on more rounds, it would have been better for more rounds, and that's the kind of thing he needs, that ring experience. Of what I saw, I'm a little concerned for Jonny Fisher in the way he leaves himself open quite a lot, and those big right clubbing hands, they might work, of somebody of a lesser. Talent, let's say, but the problem is he's got to start stepping up now. He's got to start getting in with much better fighters, and you're going to see whether that works on any other fighter, but also how open he is, how exposed he is. His chin seemed to be in the air. Even with the 35 seconds, he seemed to be quite upright. And maybe that's why I thought he looked a bit slimmer, because he just seemed to be holding himself up a little bit more. He wasn't sort of tucked in. He was kind of upright. And so, I mean, obviously they know what they're doing, and they know who they're up against as well. But it'd be really interesting to see where he goes next, Jonny Fisher, and who he fights next. Personally, I'd like to see him in for a British title, an English title fight. But I'd certainly like to see him go a few more rounds as well. Work a few things out with another opponent, and maybe he has to go abroad. For that. Maybe he has to travel a bit more. And because it's a 30-second knockout. He got tagged a couple of times from Babic there as well. It wasn't all just one way. That's what I'm saying. He was leaving himself open as well. But I think he should come out again. He should be, getting into a fight, quite soon. 35 seconds is not enough, to sit on your laurels type thing. So, but a fantastic performance. Take nothing away from him in the way he prepared, the way he approaches his fights. But I just like Jonny Fisher, as he's quite an articulate lad. But he also he's very real about where he is in his level, in his career. There doesn't seem to be a lot of nonsense coming out of his mouth. He seems to be quite level-headed, and he knows where he is, and he knows that he needs a little bit more before he starts challenging for different things. So he seems like I don't know the kid, of course. I don't know any of them. I'm just a boxing fan, and and I call it as I see it. But he just seems like quite a level head, and quite a genuine lad, and it's a lad who's willing to learn and willing to progress. And do what it takes to go on, and also not get carried away with it as well. And that's the one thing I would say to him: just don't get carried away with any success that you get. Just take it one step at a time. But he's doing everything right. I'm not sure if he's at the level of Wardley or Clark right now, but it'd be very interesting to see when somebody can take what he gives out, but also gives back as well, and how he takes that. So that, I think that'd be very interesting to see. And who he goes up against, who knows? But there we go. So Jonny Fisher starting off the show tonight. Great knockout, and it was like a 3 or 4 punch combination really in the end. I mean, Babic was just, I've never really rated him. Yeah, he's a tough lad and everything, but I've never really rated him as a boxer. And it's almost like he came in for a bit of a payday there. Again, I'm not saying anything untoward was there, but it just seemed to be that he came in for a bit of a payday. It wasn't really, you can talk all you like, you can say everything you like, but when you step in the ring, that's the business time, right? That's when we find out. And we found out. Simple as that. We found out. Jonny Fisher did what he had to do. Did it very, very well, but he wasn't tested. So for me, he needs to come out straight away. He needs to fight again soon, and I'm talking very soon. If it goes past September and he hasn't fought, I'm thinking that they're missing a trick there. If he gets another quick finish, he needs to be out again before the end of the year as well. It's a tough road. It's constantly being in camp. I get it. And, it's hard work as well. But at the same time, they're trying to develop the next... we got to think about the next crop of British boxers, right? And at heavyweight level, who are coming through? Well, obviously, the next generation after the AJ's Furies of this world, and the likes of Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisels are obviously who have reached the end of their career. Then you got Daniel Dubois, obviously. Well, he's 26. He's going in with AJ. But you could say he is the next generation. But really, in and around Daniel Dubois, there isn't really anybody. Now, you could argue, well, what about a Clark and Wardley? What about them in terms of that level? Well, I don't think they're at that level. That's a problem. But it'd be interesting to see if they're given an opportunity, especially Wardley, how he would match up. I'm not saying a world title fight or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, where he matches up with Daniel Dubois in a couple of years' time, but time really isn't on Wardley's side either. So that's the thing, probably we're looking at Wardley Clark as being British level, maybe European level, maybe at an outside. I tell you what kind of springs to mind now. It really depends how the Saudis develop boxing and how many cards they put on and how many fights get made. And will this open up the roster of boxers, of fighters to fight a lot more regularly and fight, so you'll see the likes, I don't know, the likes of, I don't know, let's just say Clark and Wardley, right? Or even Jonny Fisher, right? You'll see them coming through a lot quicker to higher level boxing than you normally would have done, because there's just so many more fights going on and so many more opportunities. If that happens, it'd be interesting. But look, the next generation is Daniel Dubois, but there isn't anybody else with him from a British point of view, right? Kind of. The next stage down is obviously Wardley Clark. Adelaide, but Adelaide's not that level, of course, and we know that. But then you got Jonny Fisher and a couple of others. Okay, Moses Datoma as well. So it'd be interesting to see. Actually, I tell you what, it'd be a very interesting fight. I doubt this will ever happen. I can't, unless Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren get together on a Saudi card and say, Jonny Fisher, Moses Datoma, you two young lads, get in there, show us what you got. Two heavy hitters, two quick finishers, two lads who, they've got, actually, that's not a bad shout. Moses Datoma against Jonny Fisher on a Saudi undercard. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, are you listening? That's the fight. Turki El Sheikh, are you listening? Are you listening? Jonny Fisher and Moses Datoma on an undercard. And, I'm not saying the next, obviously it's too late for September and obviously August now, but after, I suppose the next Saudi card would be October, at October, something like that. So if they could get one then, hey, and it won't be a case of selling tickets for that for Jonny Fisher's dad, because everybody's just going to go there anyway. The Saudis are going to be funding everything, but that'd be great. That'd be great to see that kind of level. Two young lads coming up, and if they lose, I think we're getting past that stage now. If you lose, it's the end of your career. It's not, especially if you're a young lad. You can still come back. Look at Daniel Dubois. He's coming back. Look at the likes of Joe Parker. Look at the likes of AJ, of course. Who've lost, 2 or 3 times, but against great, not Andy Ruiz, but Alexander Usyk in terms of AJ. But, opposition, great opposition, come back and starting to make waves again. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Moses Datoma, Jonny Fisher could get beat, but that doesn't mean the end of their career. They just got beat, they come back again. But Jonny Fisher, whether they would take that risk with him, I don't know. But I think, I don't think there's any risk anymore for your career. I don't think they need to protect that that 11-0 or 12-0 or 13-0. I think he they can get a draw in there. They could get a loss in there. And I'm not sure what Moses Atoma is. I think he's about, isn't he about an 8-0, 9-0, something like that. But be very interesting. Be very interesting to see what goes on there. But say great night, a great undercard as well for the Jonny Fisher as well. I'm not sure if it was a total sellout, wasn't it? I think they had nearly a sellout, but I don't think it was a total sellout there at the Copper Box. But good night of boxing, I thought. And I enjoyed it. So I enjoyed it as well. So I was watching football on one screen. I was unboxing it, and my eyes are going both ways. So flitting between the two. So very good, very good. Caught up with the night's fighting early this morning, with Shakur Stevenson beating Harut. I could never pronounce his name. Harutjinjan. Harutian. That's it. Harutian, I think. Unanimous decision. Yeah, I saw the full highlights this morning. The full fight, I should say. Yeah, he definitely won it on points. I just think it was a bit interesting. He's very interesting, the commentator at the end of the fight. This is, the Sky Sports feed here, but here in the UK, but it was American commentary team. And the lady, I've forgotten what her name is, but she made a very interesting passing comment right at the end. And it wasn't that Shakur Stevenson had retained his WBC. He wasn't WBC champion. He was the WBC. I forgot what it was, but it was it was almost like, it wasn't title holder. It was name holder or something like that. I wish I could remember what it was. But anyway, it wasn't like she called him a champion. She just called him a title holder or something. It's right at the end of the full fight highlights from Sky Sports. If you go and watch it, it's right at the very end, and she mentions it. It's on YouTube, so go and watch it if you like. But it's almost interesting that there's more and more talk now about all these different, governing bodies, commissions. Too many of them, the big four plus another one. Then Saudi's getting in the mix as well, wanting to develop their own league. It's too many things. You want a world champion, we get an undisputed heavyweight, then all of a sudden he has to vacate one of the bouts, so somebody else is now world champion. Daniel Dubois is world champion, by default. AJ Dubois fighting for another, but we know that world champion is undisputed is Usyk. It's almost like we're getting to that point where the discussion for getting rid of all the bouts and just having one bout or just having one championship, I don't know how they would do it. I mean, who's going to give up their territory? Who's going to give up, the WBC, the IBF, or whatever, WBO, WBA, IBO, just to join in. I mean, it just seems very odd, doesn't it? But look, you could right now you have four main world title holders, 5 if you count the IBO. It's a bit of a nonsense, really, isn't it? So it's it's not like somebody's WBC champion, they are world champion. I think this commentator had it quite right. They are WBC title holder, or whatever the term she used. She didn't use champion because you're not world champion. You're just title holder of that commission. You could be fighting in the Lego championship, so you'll be world champion in the Lego championship. Do you know what I mean? So it's not definitive enough. Only when you get an undisputed is it definitive enough. So the only undisputeds that we've got: Terence Crawford, Alexander Usyk. Well, he isn't now because they've taken away, but Terence Crawford, Alexander Usyk, and Inoue. That's it. That's it, Inoue. So there's 3. Oh, Canelo Alvarez, of course. Is that it? Yeah. So 4. That's what we've got. So there's unless I'm missing somebody. But that's when it becomes, you're a world champion. Now, in the UFC, of course, there is just one world champion. But you are UFC world champion. You're not MMA world champion. So it's just UFC. That's just like WBC. PFL is like the WBA. One championship in the Far East, that's like the IBF. It's all a bit of a nonsense, really, when you come down to it. But there we go. But anyway, so he won by unanimous decision. I think he's a little bit upset. Well, not upset, a bit disappointed himself that he didn't get him out of there with a knockout. Didn't stop him. But he's a great fighter, lightweight great fighter, Shakur Stevenson. But, I think, he definitely needs a match-up with somebody else. Definitely needs to see where he's at, and a tougher test, I think. But, it'd be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, Ennis is fighting next week as well. That'll be a very good fight. So looking forward to watching that. But yeah, Shakur Stevenson, very decent win, of course. Fantastic fighter, fighter of the future, pound for pound of the future. I think we're talking about him. It'd be interesting if they could ever put on a fight of between him. I'm sort of grabbing names out of the air here, but Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis, that kind of thing. If we've got to see what happens with Devin Haney as well, when he comes back, and what weight he's going to come back in at, and what weight he'll want to fight at. That's the interesting thing for me. But Shakur Stevenson is a fantastic fighter, isn't he? Brilliant technician, just lovely to watch. By contrast, I don't know if you saw the highlights of the full fight as I did this morning of Nate Diaz against Jorge Masvidal. Where was that? When do they do that? Is it in Texas they did that? And it went the full distance, and Diaz won by majority decision. But it was. I was bored watching it. To be honest, I was bored watching it. Look, it's fine. They were fighting, but I suppose it annoys the hell out of me when people like Nate Diaz, especially Nate Diaz, right? But other MMA guys do it as well. That they say boxing isn't fighting. It's not a real fight. I get it from their perspective, because a real fight, they use all their jiu-jitsu and grappling and, takedowns and everything, which a boxer wouldn't be able to handle mostly. Well, you get a very good MMA guy against a very good boxer in MMA world or on the street, possibly. You're talking. Yeah, I'd favour the MMA guy, right? Because he's not just punching. You'd have to catch the MMA guy coming in or get out of the way really quickly to. I'm not saying boxers can't do it, or certainly can't train up to it. And some boxers have done very well getting into the MMA world over the past in history, but not. We'd always favour the MMA guy, right? But the point is that they come over to boxing because that's where the money is. The money fights are obviously in boxing. Boxing has had a massive resurgence, of course. So all of a sudden then, they want to come over. But you still get those comments, it's not a real fight, it's not a half a fight, it's not a real fight. Nate Diaz is doing it all the time, and he looks pissed off about the whole thing. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what the fuck are you doing then? What are you here for then? If you hate it so much, if you don't like boxing that so much, what are you here for? Yeah, you're here for a payday. That's what you're here for. Yeah, you don't pull the wool over our eyes. Don't try and bullshit a bullshitter. We know what you're here for, both of you. You're just here to, jump on the bandwagon and get a name in the boxing world and, fight. Yes, you're going to draw a lot of eyes because of the names that you've got and the fan base that you've got from the MMA world. But you're decent enough boxers at that level, but you're not, what I would call as a fan of quality boxing. You're not at that level. But it's just the whole attitude of them coming in. And I thought it was just a boring fight. I just didn't think they were catching each other, but it was just so open, and It was sloppy. It just looked sloppy. It just looked as if they weren't. I've always been a bit of a purist, I suppose. That's where I'm coming at. I've always been a bit of a purist when it comes to for football, for boxing, for sports. And I'm not saying you can't change it up a little bit, and I'm not saying that. But I'm thinking, when you come into it, respect the sport that you're doing. So, I always thought that MMA is a fight. They're fighting, right? Whereas boxing, yes, it's fighting, yes, but it's a sport, right? You're doing it as a sport. It's a high level. It's a much higher level sport than MMA is in terms of quality, in terms of a specialized sport. That's what a specialized discipline. Boxing is a very specialized. So MMA guys coming in and going up against a boxer, as we know, no, it ain't going to work. It's not going to work, right? And they get found out, especially if they're matched up correctly with a really good boxer, not Jake Paul's of this world, who's another idiot, right? And I call him an idiot because he tried to keep on telling everybody, "Oh, I'm taking boxing seriously, and I want to be world champion," all that sort of nonsense. But he's not taking it seriously. He's not taking it. So he had a couple of tune-up fights with they weren't very good, were they? Just to make himself look good, and which he didn't. He failed in making himself look good as well. A couple of tune-up fights, and then he goes off the rails with this Mike Tyson thing. Now he's gone off the rails with this Mike Perry thing, and it's just like, well, you're not really going. You're not taking boxing seriously, then, are you? Because Mike Perry isn't much of a boxer. He's a fighter, granted. Bare-knuckle boxer, yes, a bare-knuckle fighter. But in terms of boxing excellence, no. Way open. Not good at all. Not good at all. Jake Paul, you thought, okay, you're starting to develop here. There's a little bit, but then you've thrown your career down the toilet. Nobody's taking you seriously. No boxers. The only reason they would take you on for a future fight is for the money. But then the way boxing has suddenly opened up now with the Saudis, thank you Turkey Al Sheikh and all that kind of stuff, as everybody keeps on thanking them, thank you, right? But the world of boxing has suddenly opened up. So many more fights can be made. So many, a lot more movements, a lot more dynamic. So all of a sudden he's not the big draw anymore for people. And the boxers want to take their career seriously. They're going to get on undercards and they're going to be, making themselves visible in the boxing sense against credible opponents. So, so when Nate Diaz fought Jake Paul, it was a similar kind of thing. He was going into the boxing world with a kind of poor boxer, and it was just poor, and he wasn't really taking it seriously at times, and he was saying half a fight, this isn't a fight, oh yeah, and he didn't care that he lost, and it was just, and the same here, that Nate Diaz, he won, but yeah, and you can hardly understand the bloody word he's saying for a start. It's just, I just think that if you don't respect boxing, fine. I've got no problem with that at all. If you think that, boxing is half a fight, great. I get that completely. I'm kind of with you, right? So then stay out of it then. Stay away from it. Don't partake in it. What's the point? Why didn't Nate Diaz and Masvidal do an MMA fight then? Why didn't they do that? Are they both free agents? I'm not sure if they're both free agents. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. Let us know in the comments if you know much more about them. But why didn't they do an MMA fight? Why didn't they go to PFL and just do an MMA fight? Yeah? Why didn't they just do that? It would have been so much better. Yeah? But to come into a boxing match, why? Because they're jumping on the bandwagon. That's what they're trying to do. They're jumping on the bandwagon. You kind of wish that they'd stay out of it, or shut up, or just come in with a bit more respect and try best. Don't I'm not saying they didn't train for the fight and didn't take it seriously, but their demeanour is just all over the place. especially Nate Diaz. I mean, it's just, and nobody's putting it on him in terms of asking him questions, that kind of thing. Nobody's put, oh, I'm getting a flashy thumbs up here. What's that? Don't know what that is. But anyway, but nobody's putting it on him. Nobody's putting it on him. You kind of wonder, well, what the hell is going on? It's ask him the right questions, put it to him and say, well, if you hate it so much, you hate being here, you hate doing press conferences and stuff. And the way they're doing those press conferences, the guy who's stood in the middle of them, he was annoying as hell as well. So I can see why he's getting annoyed, Nate Diaz and Masvidal, getting both annoyed. But if you don't like, somebody should have asked him, if you don't like boxing, what are you doing here doing boxing then? If you think it's half a fight, what are you doing here? Why don't you just do an MMA fight? If that's it, if that's what it is. But I thought the fight was boring, really. I thought it was labouring. There wasn't anything. There was some technique. It's almost like, you're throwing punches out, but the other guy's so poor at defending them, and they're not power punches. They're just scoring punches, and it's just like, But hey, what can I say? Didn't think it was that great. But getting back to real boxing, Jonny Fisher. I mean, interesting. Let me just get back to Nate Diaz. He's had 2 boxing matches, right? And he's won one, lost one, I believe. And that's it. I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to continue trying to get more boxing matches? It's almost like we've got, and I've kind of mentioned this before, it's not celebrity boxing, but we've kind of got this this thing now where you're almost getting showcase fights, more and more. We're seeing it more and more now, showcase fights, big names from different sports getting into the ring. And the ring of choice is the boxing ring. They don't seem to be getting into the MMA octagon. They don't seem to be getting into doing any other thing. They're choosing boxing. Why? Because the boxing is the number one combat sport that is widely recognized around the world as being the most entertaining, the most enthralling, and also the most technical at times. It's not always. Of course, you can have boring fights in boxing. Of course, you can have boring fights anyway. You can have poor fights. You can have really poor boxers. Of course, you can. That's not what I'm talking about. But at its very best, and we all thought that MMA world, UFC especially, was starting to take over boxing. Boxing was on a bit of a low, and then all of a sudden it's gone into hyper gear, hasn't it? Some high-profile fights, and away you go, and that's all it takes. Boxing has taken off like a rocket ship, especially here in the UK, in the United States, and obviously around the world. And the drivers for that Saudi, but not just Saudi Arabia, Turkey Al Sheikh, and Saudi Arabia. It's not just them. It's Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, and Boxer here in the UK. I'm not going to say BSM. Who are they? The new outfit. They're just going to be going on TalkSport and DAZN as well. They're making some good moves. Obviously, everybody in the US as well, and Mexico, and obviously you got massive names like Inui, in Japan, selling out arenas. So boxing is on a massive resurgence, but on a massive high, and it's just staying there. Whereas UFC seems to have dropped off. As I've always said, UFC wasn't really on my radar. Only for I openly admit I'm a real casual fan when it comes to MMA, UFC, and I only really like it when they do stand-up fighting. The kicking, that kind of kickboxing type style. I love Thai boxing, but when they do that, but when they start the grappling and everything, no, it's not really for me. I'm not saying it's not effective. Of course it is. And the Nate Diaz of this world would say this is where we would win a fight. We could beat you within 2 seconds just by doing a choke or something like that. Yeah, okay, fine. But it's not as a spectacle, as a sport that I want to watch and be a fan of. It's not for me. and for boxing, I am a fan of, because I can see how, and I identify with it a lot more, and you see how technically good somebody is or somebody isn't. And, just like in football, let's say, you can see how good a team is or how versus a team that isn't, especially if you're a real fan of football as a sport, in terms of how it's played and everything. Exactly the same in boxing, but I just can't see that in the MMA world. I just don't get that enthusiastic about it. So I get that it is more. There's more to it than that, and they would say the boxers wouldn't stand up very well in an MMA octagon. I get that, and I kind of agree as well. But boxers don't usually go into the MMA world. It's the MMA guys who come into the boxing world to try and earn some extra money, and that's the thing. Well, if you're going to do that, then take it seriously. That's all I'm saying. Take it with add a bit more. What's the word? A bit more respect. Give it a bit more respect, I would say. But boxing last night for me, Jonny Fisher did a fantastic job. I thought really good, and to boot, England got through to the semi-finals of the Euros on penalties. In and out performance, I thought it could have easily been Switzerland's. They had some chances. It wasn't a chance-rich game. Certainly the first half, there was hardly anything. I don't think there was any shots on goal. Second half wasn't much better. A couple more chances. Obviously, a couple of goals towards the end. Turkey went into lead, then England equalised. Then I thought first half of extra time, England probably had a little bit better of it, but Turkey had a bit more. In the second half of the extra time, I thought Turkey had a lot more of it as well, and could have easily won it. Both teams could have easily won that. So if you're a Turkey, if you're a Switzerland fan, sorry, did I say Turkey? I meant to say Switzerland. If you're a Switzerland fan, you definitely probably thought you should have had that. You should have had that. I was thinking about the Holland-Turkey game last night, which I was watching. One eye there. And Holland looked good as well, and that's who England play next. So, hey, could be. So that's on Tuesday, I believe. Tuesday or Wednesday, one of the two. I think, Tuesday is Spain against France. And Wednesday, I think it could be England against Holland. So we're watching that as well. But anyway, let us know your thoughts on the boxing or any sports that you're interested. Let us know where you're from and all that kind of stuff. But as I say, big clap to Jonny Fisher last night. Great takeout in 30 seconds. Yeah, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see him put under pressure, see how he deals with it, see how he grows as a fighter, because at some point you could knock everybody out 30 seconds a minute, right? You can do all that. But at some point you will come up against somebody who won't go down. He will eat all those up, no problem. And that's when you got to see, are you game? Or do you have the stuff? And it's just the same for everybody in life. You're going to come up against some situation. If you've never been tested before, you're not going to know how you're going to deal with that. So, anyway, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. And if you're joining the live show, I'll be doing some more live shows, I'm sure, the next few days as well. But let us know your thoughts about the boxing, about Nate Diaz and Masvidal. What do you think of that fight? What do you think about Shakur Stevenson? What do you think about Jonny Fisher? I was going to talk a bit more about AJ and Carl Froch as well. Them two just... and the internet has picked up on it a lot more, but I just can't. The thing is, what I'll say about Carl Froch is this, that he says he's very vocal, very honest and everything like that. And he does remind me of a couple of other sportsmen who've gone outside of main media, let's say, for one reason or another. Either they've been rejected or they've been pushed out or they decide to go out, and they start to get very vocal and give their own opinions. And the problem is they make themselves a bit of an island, really. And, you know, the thing is, he's latched on to YouTube and, yeah, very successful and all that kind of stuff. He's always growing very successfully. But I've seen this so many times in the YouTube world where people just grow and they do things just for the clicks, and they do things for the, you know, that. And I'm sure by now they've probably got some kind of advisor for their YouTube channel as well. And the advisor is probably saying, do this, do that, talk like this, say that. Yeah, well, that's working. The numbers are working. And there's lots of people out there who are jumping onto him and, you know, identifying with what he says. I get it. I get all that. There's, you know, so there's no issue there in saying what he says, but it's almost like he's saying it for just to fuel the YouTube channel, let's say. And yeah, I'm sure, you know, he has that character to have that, but it's almost like it's a bit of naivety there. I think there's a bit of naivety there about how this all works in terms of YouTube and social media, in terms of the knock-on effect that it could have. Because, hey, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Talk Sport say to him, we don't really want you anymore, you know, or TV, you know, boxing TV like TNT or something like that, say, or Sport or Sky or whatever. They said we don't really want to employ you anymore for any kind of punditry. Well, they might do, but they may not as well. So he's also got to be careful what he says and how he says things on his YouTube channel as well. He's got to be very careful about that. But let us know your thoughts on that. So I wasn't really going to dig into that at all. The other thing I wasn't going to dig into, and I'm not really, because I think it's a waste of space, is Ryan Garcia. I mean, he's been kicked out by the WBC and everything that's going on there. You know, whatever. There's these bubbles keep on appearing on the screen. You'll see there's like a thumbs up, but I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know if I've done this accidentally myself. I don't know. So if they are annoying you, I do apologise. I don't know what it is, or whether it's YouTube. No, it can't be YouTube saying do that, because it's appearing on my system here before it goes to YouTube. So I don't know. Maybe I've got a setting put in here and it's saying to do that. But there we go. Yeah, Ryan Garcia, I mean, you know, all the things that he's been saying and everything like that. I mean, you know, all things, you know, I got no time for. I got no time for people like that. You know, just get stuffed, basically, and just go away. And when you're better, when you start acting like a normal human being, a proper human being, he's a respectful human being, then you can come back to me. Otherwise, forget it. Yeah, so that's it. But in terms of AJ Dubois coming up, that'd be decent. Yeah, looking forward to that now. Really looking forward to the August card for Crawford fight. September card, yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Yes, I mean, there's lots of news that comes out, isn't there, in the boxing world. One that I picked up on this week was, I don't know if you heard, the Canelo Alvarez wants to fight Chris Eubank Jr. for an undisputed title shot. And I just thought, where's this coming from? And also, I mean, how real is it? Apparently they're in negotiations, but I don't know how, if it'll ever happen, right? Chris Eubank Jr. is a free agent now, so he can do what he wants as well in terms of promotions. So I don't know. I don't know. But I also thought, well, I don't even know if, unless Alvarez comes down in weight or he goes up in, because I just thought, maybe it's just me, I didn't think he was at 160. I don't think he's ever gone to 168, has he? Let me just have a quick check, because I thought, I thought Chris Eubank Jr. was a lot less. I thought he was at 154, wasn't he? Let's have a quick look here. There we go, right. Yeah, he's 33 fights. He's 24 KOs. So, sorry, he's got 33 wins, 3 losses, and he's won by 24 KOs as well. He's It doesn't say. He is. What's his weight then? Super middle. Oh no, he was super middle. Do you know? I didn't think he was. I didn't think he was at that weight. Yeah, maybe obviously he is. I thought he'd have to come up weight, a bit too much weight to come up, but obviously he is. Obviously he is that guy. He obviously is. Yeah, so that'd be really interesting to see if he can do that. But I can't see that happening. But like, that's a fight I would watch. Definitely a fight I would watch. And I'd like to see Chris Eubank stick it on Canelo Alvarez as well. I think it's just a matter of time for Canelo Alvarez to. Fantastic fighter, don't get me wrong. He's everything. But I don't think he takes the hardest challenges. He's won everything. Right? I just don't think he takes the hardest challenges. And in his last 5 fights, he only won them by, yes, they've gone to decision. Unanimous decision, granted, yes. But they've all gone to decision. Take away the Bivol fight, of course. I just think he's, needs to be tested a lot more. I'm not saying that Chris Eubank Jr. is the guy to test him. And I'm really surprised. But this kind of... It kind of appears that Canelo Alvarez, if this is true, is asking Chris Eubank Jr. to come in as a bit of a soft touch. I'm not saying Chris Eubank Jr. is a soft touch, but in terms of at the level that Canelo Alvarez is, I'm not sure it's the right matchup. I could be wrong, but let us know your thoughts. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the show. But Jonny Fisher, great fight. Where does he go next? Who does he fight next? I think they need to get him out there as soon as they can. And, we'll see what happens. But if you like what I do, like and share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I'll catch you again. Bye now.